You guys can see it, right? Only one screen? Good. Very good. So we'll get started. Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavatam Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Kratitam Purana Muninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Vridavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusantathami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini. Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pulla Ravindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamayah Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetam Drutaduhe Namaha. Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyaha Mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. So welcome everyone for our session 60th of Bhagavad Gita. We are on chapter 4, and this chapter, as I have been saying before, and every chapter is so important, and this chapter is by no means not important. In fact, it is probably one of the most important chapters of Bhagavad Gita, because here, we see really Lord Krishna introducing himself. He's introducing himself as God. All this time, he was a friend, he was a charioteer. Arjuna could, pretty much put his arms around Krishna's shoulders and talk to him and fight with him and everything. But very suggestively, we see in this chapter some very, very beautiful concepts which are going to come up, which have already come up actually, but there are more concepts, especially today. I'm hoping we will be able to get to it, which is about the caste system. And why did it come about, and why is it, what is the significance of it? So we will see how we can get to it today. So in reflection time, I just wanted to ask you, first of all, in this chapter, the 4th chapter, what are the concepts that has appealed to you so far? Any thoughts, any concept which came about, which kind of touched you, or something which was an aha moment maybe, or maybe it is something which, cleared up some doubts? What do you think? Anything? Meenu, I know you want to say something there.
About Dharma, the definition of Dharma, which you told, Brahmacharya, Satyam, and Ahimsa, that was nice. And how you said, what I forgot, that Dharma or Rakshati,
Dharma Rakshana. Yes, Dharayate iti, that is one which, which really stands. There's nothing that is, how would I say, there's nothing which is different. I mean, it is rooted in itself. Dharma is, it's an all-compassing word which talks about not just duty, but it is the isness, that aspect of it. Yeah, very
That's
beautiful.
nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So one of the things that, literally, for me, particularly, these concepts are so very important because right now, the work that I'm doing is all about Indian knowledge traditions. And so some of the concepts which are there in Bhagavad Gita is really rooted in the way the Indian culture developed for a long time, the Sanatana Dharma. And in here, the Guru Shishya Parampara, this aspect of transfer of knowledge from a higher point to a lower point. Of course, in kinetics, we call this as, the potential energy, right? From a high point, the water always flows from a high point to a low point. So here, the Guru Shishya Parampara, the qualities of a teacher, how important it is, and how the quality of a Shishya is also important, the humility and the open-mindedness of a student to be able to receive. That aspect of Guru Shishya Parampara was very beautifully brought out. Another major concept was this avatar concept. Again, as I mentioned, previously we had known Lord Krishna only as a friend, as a charioteer, as an advisor maybe. But in this chapter, we are slowly gravitating towards understanding an aspect of who is really God. What is God, So the introduction to it in this fourth chapter was beautiful because we saw that it was not, suddenly introduced to us saying that, there is somebody called God in the heavens and, somebody whom we can never reach or somebody who's so far away from us. It's so gradual, the same friend or the charioteer who was an advisor in the second chapter, giving all this great knowledge, suddenly is transforming himself into somebody whom you really look up to. And that's the avatar aspect that is brought about here. It is not just consciousness who was introduced just like that, but we are graduating from a physical being just like any one of us to more of an omniscient being who has more superpowers and who also has a physical body just like us. But literally, the reason why this avatar has taken birth, or why all this was beautifully explained in the shlokas 4 to 8. The first one was Guru Shishya Parampara and the 1 to 3, and this brings to how the layout of the shlokas which we have seen so far, the Guru Shishya Parampara, and the fact that this knowledge was available to everyone, and how, Arjuna is told that he is now the right patram or the vessel to receive this knowledge. And that is what explained. And then the avatarhood was explained. We understood the theory of reincarnation, and where again in shloka number 6, he says, well, finally, he reveals as to who he is. And then what is the difference between our birth and what is Krishna's birth? That was given in shloka 7. And shloka 8 is why he was born, why he takes birth, this paritranaya sadhunam, those 2 shlokas, and yada yada hi dharmasya, those shlokas were given. And then now this dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge, that aspect of it is, he gives, the Janma was explained before here. And then you see there is a little bit of a turn in how 4th chapter takes to explain why he has taken birth to do what. correct? So that aspect, and Minu's aspect of dharma will be shown here. The dharma samsthapana will be shown here through the chaturvarnyam, through the four castes. Why are the four castes taken? They all are necessary for dharma samsthapana. Every caste is important towards the dharma aspect. So that you will see beautifully really explained by this four caste system, which, like I said, hopefully we'll come to it today. And so the threefold route given by this one was given as, the bhakti yoga, karma yoga, and the jnana yoga. And then verse number 11, where he says, truly, again, this is another beauty of Sanatana Dharma, saying the shloka is so universal. The shloka number 11, we'll come to that. And so this is really the three sections we are working with here. So what I'll do is, again, like we did last time, we will quickly chant through those shlokas. And since I gave you this breakdown here, you will now be able to relate it to each one of the verses. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha Atha Chaturto Dhyayaha Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavanaham Avyayam Vivaswan Manave Praha Manurikshvakave Bravit Evam Parampara Praptam Imam Rajarshayo Viduhu Sakale Neha Mahata Yogo Nashtaf Parantapa Sa Evayam Maya Tedhya Yogaf Proktaf Puratanaha Bhaktosi Me Sakha Cheti Rahasyam Hetaduttamam Arjuna Uvacha Aparam Bhavato Janma Param Janma Vivasvataha Katame Tatvijaniyam Tvamadau Proktavaniti Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bahuni Me Vyatitani Janmani Tavacharjuna Tanyaham Veda Sarvani Natvam Vetaf Parantapa Ajopi Sannavyayatma Bhutanam Ishvaropi San Prakritim Swamadhisthaya Sambhavam Yatma Mayaya Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glanirbhavati Bharata Abhyuttanamadharmasya Tadatmanam Srajamyaham Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Cha Dushkritam Dharma Samsthapanarthaya Sambhavami Yuge Yuge Janma karma cha me divyam yo vet evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. Then we saw, so up till there was one section here. Now we see that in shloka number 10, we find that Sri Krishna is really starting to give us a kind of an exposure to what his true essence is, his eternal essence. So he first, in this shloka, you see how he will show us that, the path of karma yoga is one where we can use to get rid of our vasanas. And then he calls this as a preparatory path to the spiritual path itself. And as we become really good in what we do as our duty, then what happens is we really use this karma yoga path to really get rid of, I would say, our attachments, our fear, our anger. And once we do this, what happens is our vasanas, the vasanas which are built over such a long period of time due to our likes and dislikes, that becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. And once we do this, then what happens is our mind also becomes much more calmer. As you know, our mind, gets scattered in so many different directions all throughout our day. But then through this path of karma yoga, it allows us to have a control over our anger and our fear. And once this is done, then what happens is our mind becomes much more calmer and accepting of who that Paramatma is. And when we do that, then a bhakti element, we get to practice really what bhakti yoga is. And once we have been purified even more by bhakti yoga, then what happens is the aspect of jnana yoga comes into play through the three path of Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. Then our jnana yoga aspect of we get to practice that, or we get to do a lot of this discriminative analysis and glide into that ultimate consciousness. So this is the aspect which is shown here in the shloka, which is Vitaraga Bhaya Krodhaha Manmaya Mamupashritaha Bahavo Jnana Tapasa Puta Madbhavamagataha. Because, Arjuna, he had this question, okay, how is it, how can people really reach that ultimate? So this is why the threefold path which is given, which is Vita, free from any kind of attachment. So, the question then would come is, how is it possible for me to live in this world without attachment? So we have seen many stories of this, and we have seen also that it is not that we go away to Himalayas or we go away from where we live to get rid of our attachment, but the idea is living in this world and recognizing the oneness in everyone itself allows us to get over our attachment. So that aspect is shown here, which is free from attachment. And when you are free from attachment, then when I see the oneness, where is the fear, right? So this is the Vairagyam eva abhayam. That is one beautiful shloka phrase, which is when I have that Vairagya, and when I have the Viveka, there is no fear, abhayam, there is no fear at all. So when I don't have that fear, then where is the question of me to be angry? Anger comes again because of attachment, right? And this attachment, what happens is it allows me to get to that point of where if I don't get what I want, then I become angry. So that anger itself is removed when I don't see I have that attachment. So that being the case, such a person who through karma yoga and through doing the duties is able to practice karma yoga allows one to get over who gets free from attachment, gets free from fear and anger. Such a person then is able to focus their complete attention on the Lord. So manmaya mam upashritaha is able to take refuge, is able to be completely absorbed. Such a person sees the Lord everywhere, and such a person totally is able to surrender to that Lord. So by doing this, Lord Krishna is assuring Arjuna, saying that Bahavaha, many people have achieved this, and through jnana tapasa, through this aspect of knowledge, through this aspect of understanding, through discriminative analysis, is able to purify that person. Such a person, many people have attained this. So again, this is a beautiful shloka which is giving us a lot of hope, giving us a lot of comfort that, our idea is just to focus on this and it is possible to get to that level. So these are the three special qualifications we saw: Vita Raga Bhaya Krodaha, Manmaya Mam Upashritaha, taking refuge in me, and Jnana Tapasa Putaha, many people have come to me, is what Lord Krishna is again assuring Arjuna. So this then brings to our next shloka, where Arjuna is saying that, okay, that is good. So you've given me the qualifications, but, I'm getting this knowledge here. Aren't you being a little too partial in not allowing others also to get this knowledge? Why is it that only people who are listening to Bhagavad Gita, why is it people like me, are able to get this knowledge? So that is where now Krishna is telling Arjuna that that is not true. I'm not really being partial at all. I'm telling you that this knowledge is available for anyone and everyone. And this is the shloka which I said, is such a universal shloka. It's basically saying that, the Lord is available for everyone. It's just like this example of sunlight, right? Sunlight is available for anyone and everyone in every part of the world. I mean, you can be in Australia, you can be in the United States, you can be in India. Sunlight is available. Nobody can say the sun is not shining for me, right? It's all a matter of how I'm opening my doors and I'm opening my windows to welcome that sunlight in. So that's what the shloka is really trying to show here. Ye yatha mam prapadhyante tams tathaiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushyav partha sarvashah. So Lord Krishna is saying in whatever way men approach me, ye yatha mam prapadyante, mam, that is coming to me, prapadyante, approaching me, in anyone, ye yatha mam prapadyante, whoever whoever that person is, ye yatha mam prapadyante, tam tathaiva bhajamiham. In whatever manner the person approaches me, I'm there for them. So Arjuna is again putting the ball in the court of the devotee. So whatever way people approach me, I'm there. Mama vartma anuvartante, my path is followed by men in all ways, O Partha. So this is a shloka which is Krishna saying it doesn't matter who they are. Even an atheist, even a person who doesn't believe me is actually following only my path. I mean, so powerful. I mean, literally, Krishna is trying to show the universality of, again, the Sanatana Dharma. People can be of any kind, they come to me here. So in whatever way people approach me, this is the key, this is really the key sentence here. It's like this. We spend a lot of time and energy and everything, and we plan this trip to, say, Tirupati. Again, I'm using an Indian example here. To Tirupati, we plan to take, we come from US, we plan, and then we go to Tirupati. And the minute we stand in front of Lord Venkateshwara, we of course get, dazzled by all that, the greatness who is in front of us, right? But then the first thing that comes to me was, oh, please, Lord Venkateshwara, please just satisfy this one desire I have. Let my son get married. And then I will just come to you totally. I'll surrender to you. Mam upashritaha. I will do that. Right? So what does Lord Venkateshwara say? That, well, you took the time to spend all this time. In your mind, that is all that you want. Okay, I'll grant you that wish. Right? So this is how we are when we go to temples and everything. And, he also, the way he has his hands is, when you come here, I bless you, I give you whatever you want. So, ye yatha mam prapadyante, tam sitaiva, sorry, ye yatha mam prapade, tan tatha eva bhajami aham, right? So I look at this as, one of the phrases which I remember my boss telling me once, long time ago, when I asked him for, I wanted to get into another group. He said, be careful what you ask for. You may just get it, since it's just an American expression here. So, the Lord is not partial at all, actually. All he's saying is that, you be careful what you want, and I'll make sure that I'll give it to you. But don't tell me later on that this is not what I asked for. Okay. So again, here I have to give a beautiful joke, which, from the joke master Guruji, I mean, Guruji is just so funny, I think, with his jokes. So the joke is, there was once a farmer, okay? And this farmer, and I don't know if I told this joke last time, I don't remember, it is 2 weeks ago, so I don't remember this. But so this farmer, he's really in a very rural area, very rustic. Matter of fact, this is at a time where all they did was they would go to the fields, come back, and they would cook food. The houses were very simple. And so one day, as he was plowing his land, he saw something really shiny. Okay. And he had never seen something like this. And he said, wow, okay, I need to bring this back and take it to the house. So he just picks it up, and then he thought he saw his father's picture in that shiny stuff. Okay. Now, bear in mind, this is way before something called a mirror existed. Okay. So he had never even seen his own face. He had only seen his father's face. And so when he looked at it, he said, oh, okay, this is my father's picture here. So he took it home, and then, with great reverence, he opens his cupboard and he brings out one of his very important boxes, and he keeps it in there. And, every day in the morning as soon as he gets up, he'll open it and he'll look at it. So one day his wife got very suspicious. And, when he goes out to the field, he goes into the room and she picks up the box and she looks at that shiny stuff. And then she looks at a woman's face there and she says, now I know what he's doing every day in the morning. He just opens up and he's looking at this woman's face. Let me take care of him when he comes back in the evening. So when he comes back in the evening, she confronts him and, they open that shiny stuff. And, she says, look, what do you have here? He said, it's my father's face. And she looks at him and she says, what? This is not a father's face. This is a woman's face here. This is who you're looking at it every day. So, they get into this big fight over this whole thing. And then one Mahatma walks by. And, he has a big beard and everything. And he looks at it and he says, no, this is not, there's no woman there. There is no other person. There is somebody with a big beard over there. So finally, this goes on, and ultimately they find somebody who is really an intelligent person who comes there, and he says, what you see is what is called as a mirror, and it is not anything else. There is no woman there. There's this one. It's just, you see whatever you see, that is what you get. So this is how really Lord Krishna is. Whatever you ask him, he's willing to give us, and we may work very hard for it, and he will just give whatever we want. The question for us is, are we asking for the right thing? We have this opportunity to go to him and really ask truly what I want, but then I tend to just ask whatever is on my, my desires, right? So that aspect of it, unknowingly we are We are trying to seek him, but the way we are seeking him is different. Ultimately, we need peace and happiness, but we are looking for peace and happiness in the paltry things in the world, right? So, tan tathaiva bhajami aham. Yatha prapadyante tathaiva aham bhajami. That is what he's trying to say. However way you approach me, that is how I am trying to come to you, and that is how I am satisfying your own happiness here. So we are looking for this, like I said, peace and happiness in small things here. And sometimes even this aspect of, I wanted to say this, tan tathaiva bhajami aham, yatha prapadyante tathaiva aham. Many times, we pray to say, again, there are stories, I think last time I mentioned about that though, which is, even if God comes in a certain form, if the form is not the way that I'm used to seeing the Lord, I may tend to reject him, So the Lord comes to us in different forms, in different types of people. And, they are coming to help us. And everybody, again, the shloka, is an interpretation of that is people come to us in different forms. They come to us to help us. And we are the ones who don't see the divinity in them, and we tend to reject them, right? So, again, such a beautiful shloka here. And that is why he says, Mama Vartma Anuvartante. Depending upon where I find my peace and happiness, that is how I approach him. So for some people who are just looking for a lot of fame and glory and, money, for example, even for them, the Lord is there to help them, saying, okay, if you want a lot of money, I will give you. You just enjoy. I'm not saying no to you. I will give you that. But we have to make a decision for ourselves if that much amount of money is needed, or that much amount of fame and glory, or whatever. That is the whole idea here. So let me just stop here for a second if there is any questions before we go to the next shloka. Any thoughts here? Yeah, Amlan, you have something to say, or?
Yeah, this shloka is kind of that it's like that talking about like causality kind of thing. Like that it's not exactly like that, but that sense is there. Like the way, the amount of effort you put towards me, I give you similar amount in return. It's like cause and effect kind of thing.
Correct. You're right. It is a cause and effect in that regard. It is also, the flow of the chapter is also so beautiful. The previous shloka was about Vitaraga Bhaya Krodaham Manmaya Mam Upashrataha. When I practice all that and I purify my mind, then to that extent, even my desires get purified. Correct? So Karma Yoga gives us a way to purify my desires. And then, so in all the cases, he is there to help us. The Lord is there. Yeah. So then the next shloka, which is, again, Lord Krishna is saying that he's really sometimes I look at this computer, this computer is so impartial, whatever I type in there or whatever websites I go to, that the computer is very willingly allowing me to give this, So he responds, so too Lord Krishna is responding in the same way as people are seeking him. So if that is the case, why are we not really approaching that Lord Krishna for the higher goals? Why are we just stopping ourselves with looking at only, say, material objects, which is giving us, that transient happiness, instant happiness? It's like our world has become like that, even more so, isn't it? I look back to the time when I was in India, to the time now that I'm here. When I was in India at that time, I really did not have a refrigerator. I did not have a TV. I did not have so many different things. But now we have all this, which has made us, look at very instant. Everything is instant. Microwave, I get my instant coffee there. And now it is, and then even previously, I had to work very hard to get somebody to say that I did a good job, right? I mean, in India, nobody says you have a good job. Your parents would never tell you that you do a good job. But today, with Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and everything, you can get any amount of likes you want. And what is happening with all those things, right? Those likes and everything has created a personality within myself, which is asking for more and more and more of those kind of likes. And it is now getting to a point where maybe I should show it in the form of a graph, where we went to a point where we went to that likes, we went up there. Now it is coming downward because we see the younger generation getting stressed out, getting depressed, because not many people are liking them, or many people liked something else, but what they posted, they're not getting that likes. So we are living in that kind of a world, and that is what I see in this next shloka. Krishna has seen this coming, and he's trying to explain to Arjuna about why is it that people are not seeking him alone, and why are people getting so hung up in these small things in the world. So let me chant the shloka. Kankshanta karmanam siddhim, Kankshantah karmanam siddhim, Yajanta iha devataha, Yajanta iha devataha, Kshipram himanushe loke, Kshipram himanushe loke, Siddhir bhavati karmaja, Siddhir bhavati karmaja, Kankshantah karmanam siddhim, Yajanta iha devataha, Kshipram himanushe loke, Siddhir bhavati karmaja. So he says, in simple words, he's trying to show that those who long for success via actions in this world, they try to appease the gods, because in this world of humans, quick results is attained through actions. Kshipram, that Kshipram means quick. So Kangshantaha, that is desiring through actions. Karmanam, Kangshanta karmanam siddhim. So those people who desire through actions results, okay, which is pretty much all of us, right? We do something and we expect something out of it. What do we do? And where do we go for doing all this? Where do we go for getting this kind of success? We go to the Devataha. Now, Devataha are really the word which is used for the lower gods. Lower gods, like for example, we go to Varuna. Pretty soon it's going to be really hot summer here, and we will be praying to Varuna like anything to get the rains so that we get the water. The other thing we also do is, before we come to even lower gods, but maybe I should say this here, well, we pray to Varuna for rains, but if Varuna doesn't help us, then what do? There was elections in Chennai, and I remember in Tambaram where I live, there is a big lake called Palar. And for the past 3 months, literally, there has been no water, we get water from Palar through pipes and everything. And these pipes are broken and nobody has repaired it. So where do I pray next? I pray to the politicians. I pray to the politicians. I vote for the right politician who will make sure that I get the water on the Palar water, right? So that's the kind of Devataha we are trying to appease here. And then Kshipram hi manushe loke. So in this world of manushe loke, manushe manushyaha lokaha, the world of human beings, Kshipram, because I need this quick results. So what do? I pray to all these lower gods because they are the ones who can really make all this happen to me. So that is what he's trying to show here. Because we are looking only for small results, these small results are enough to make me happy. So I go to these smaller gods here. So Kankshanta Karmanam Siddhim Yajanta Iha Devataha Kshipram hi Manushe Loke Siddhi Bhavati Karmaja. So success is really, material objects can be really obtained very, very quickly by doing this, and it can be happened in such a very quick, short time, Kshipram, like I said. So very good, right? So now the question is, why is it that we restrict ourselves to all these politicians or our bosses for promotions, or even these, smaller gods, right? Why do we do this? What do you think? Why do we really restrict ourselves all the time to just going to these gods and not really go to that higher God like Lord Krishna, who can give us something more? We just stop at this point. Any thoughts on this?
Hari Om.
Yes, Varna?
Lord, I mean, like you just mentioned, summer is coming. The first thing we are thinking is for rains, and it's so immediate. When the rain god doesn't come, then we are praying to the, his master, saying that, hey, get Varuna to, rain. So I mean, it's like we are so immediate gratification. We want that instant, like shabashi, you want that instant shabashi and, that instant praise. So I think that's why we are not looking at the big picture, or we don't want to go beyond. We don't want to put too much effort or strain our mind into thinking there's something beyond this. We just आसानी से जो मिल जाए बस उसको पकड़ लो, kind of a thing.
Yes, and that does give us that instant. It's like candy to a child. You give the candy to a child, the child is happy. We are just like that in a different level, right? So even though we look at ourselves as adults and we say that I'm much more smarter, brilliant, or whatever, nothing. We are still the same old, happy with small things. The other thing is that if I go to pray to Lord, go ahead.
I think in one word, if you can say, they are messengers to God.
They are messengers to gods, that is true. Like Varuna and Indra, and even this whole yajna that they do, when we do to the fire god is a messenger who takes our wishes to the higher god, right? That is true. But then this higher god, like Lord Krishna, Vishnu at that level, they are capable of giving us a lot more. But to get to that level, I need to purify my mind so much more in order to get to that level. And I don't spend the time with purification. I don't spend the time to do my sadhana, which is needed in order to purify, so I can be accessible for that higher power to come and shine on me, to give me the blessings. I really am not looking for the blessings from the higher gods. That is the message that Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna here.
I think one more thing I think about this is one is lack of knowledge. We are ignorant who can give what, and even we know the knowledge, like Lord Krishna can provide everything, then we cannot do it because of purity of mind.
Yeah.
I think because of there will be a lot of people who has no idea what to ask for. And then second is some people, like for example, who read Bhagavad Gita or scriptures, they might know it, but because of purity of mind, they'll not be able to ask for what really they are supposed to ask. I think that's what it is.
Correct. That is correct. And here again, keeping in mind that the word deity here is not necessarily just, like I said, Varuna and Indra and all of the lower gods, but it is in a sense anybody who satisfies my desire. Like I said, even the bosses, the politicians, the film stars, you know, the Facebooks. Imagine how much power we have given to Facebook to help us, because again, I'm not decrying any one of them. I think they all have a place. When we use that for what it is supposed to be, it is good. But ultimately, those also gives us that's a way to satisfy our vanity. And once I become, my ego gets satisfied more and more, I go to the smaller deities, and that is the whole idea here. So having done this, now we come to the most, one of the most controversial shlokas, if you want to say it, something which has led to so much amount of confusion, not just in the Western world. I want to take this shloka as something which has affected each one of us also personally in many different ways. And this is the shloka which is talking about the Chatur Varnyam, the 4 castes. Okay. But keeping in mind, though, we have to, when I present this, try and see how you can have an open mind to the shloka, and to see how you can see how Lord Krishna is presenting the shloka. Because ultimately, Lord Krishna is presenting the shloka for us to understand Dharma Samstapana. You know, he wants to show that if each one of us have to exist in this universe, in this world, then each one of us have a role to play, and each one of us can play a role only based upon our own skills, on what each one of us are really good at. You know, we have come into this world with our own desires, but we came with a desire to function in a way that would make our job easier, to get rid of those vasanas and to establish a sense of equality for everybody. Now, that is the reason why Krishna has brought the shloka here. Otherwise, if we don't keep that aspect in mind, we would look at the shloka and say, you know, all this time Lord Krishna was talking about, you know, who I am, my role, about him being an avatar. Why is he talking about all these varnas here? So that aspect of it is how we have to look at it. It's all about dharma, and it is, in order to maintain the dharma, we need those 4 castes. Okay. Chatur varnyam maya srishtham. Chatur varnyam maya srishtham. Gunakarma vibhagashaha. Gunakarma vibhagashaha. Tasya kartaramapi mam. Tasya kartaramapi mam. Vidhya kartaramavyayam. Vidhya kartaramavyayam. Chatur varnyam maya srishtham. Gunakarma vibhagashaha. Tasya kartaramapi mam. Vidhya kartaramavyayam. So the shloka says, the 4 castes has been created by me. So that line alone again brings, one might think it's so controversial, right? That Lord Krishna himself is saying that he has created the 4 castes. But then the second line is very important, which is, how has the 4 castes been created? It has been created based upon 2 aspects. One of them is the guna, which is the property, if you look at it. And the second one is karma. Now, karma means, we have seen, of course, karma means action. But here we can understand karma as the role in which how we play. Based upon the role, the kind of actions that I do. So, guna karma vibhagashaha. Vibhagashaha meaning it has been the division or the differentiation. Tasya kartaram apimam. Though I am the author. Now, the first 2 lines are something which we can kind of relate to. Now, the next 2, he is trying to show that even though he is created, yet he is a non-doer, a karta, and he is immutable, avyayam. That is, he's totally without any parts. He cannot be, avyayam meaning imperishable. Vyayam means perishable, imperishable, avyayam. So chatur, that is 4, varnas, varnyam, or the classes, chatur varnyam, maya, by me, has been created. Srishtam, I have created this, based upon guna and based upon the action. And tasya kartaram apimam, even though I am the doer, apimam, but know very well that I myself am a non-doer and I am imperishable. So sounds a little confusing. How can Krishna create this and yet say that I'm not creating this whole thing, right? So that is the aspect that we will try to learn here. So first of all, even as you look at the word varnam here, let's try to understand what varna really means. In Sanskrit, the word is varnyati, which is, it means to describe. I'm sure if we make some sentences, we can come up with this word about how varnayati, that is that aspect which is to describe it, that is called as varna. And from this we come to the word varnam, the properties. Varnam means the different properties. So varna actually also means color. So like Shweta Varna in, the white, and then Krishna Varna, which is black. All these are also indicating the colors. And it may sound a little racist, I guess, sometimes in the white, we say the white English color or whatever, but the whole idea is really to show that in this world of plurality, where we have so many different beings and so many different things, we need a way to actually classify, right? So, if you look at from the universe point of view, we have so many different things which are both like inert and which are sentient, correct? So from that point itself, we can look at how we have this inert mineral kingdom, which is made up of stones, mountains, all that sort of rocks. And then we have the much lower level of sentiency, which are the plants. And then we have the animal kingdom. And then we have the human kingdom, correct? So when we can understand all these classifications for the inert botany, the plant and all that. But when it comes to the human beings, suddenly we find that we really need a way to classify the human beings itself, right? Because we find that even though all of us are made with the same carbon, hydrogen, phosphorus, and we all have 2 legs, 2 arms and everything, there is a need to classify them in some form or the others. I mean, of course, we ourselves classify ourselves, when we go to a party or something, automatically we gravitate towards, the way we think or whatever, right? But in this particular shloka, he shows about let's see how we can classify. If you think about karmas, we have seen this before, there are three qualities: sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic, correct? And I've just put a very basic thing here, very high level. Sattvic people are those from a karma point of view. We will talk about gunas also, but from a karma point of view, sattvic people are the ones who are the thinkers or the decision makers, the scientists, the think tanks. Those are the people who are the sattvic kind of people. Now, rajasic people are more of, the leaders, the managers. I mean, even at work, we have these two paths. You can choose to go on the management path, or you can go on the technical path, right? So sattvic people are mostly the technical path people. Rajasic people are the management kind of people. And then finally, you have the tamasic people are the people, because you really need a lot of work to be done. So these are the lab scientists, the construction workers, people who really get the work done. So you have the decision makers, who can really think a lot, but when it comes for them to actually execute it, it's very hard for them, because they will be all over the map. They'll be always floating at the high level, coming up with only ideas. They can never put those ideas into action. So that's why you need people who are action oriented, who can really put them into action. And then you want someone who can actually get it done, who can make it. So that's how these three type of karmas have really been divided, have been there in the past and are there even today as well. So this is how you would look at karmas. Now let us look at the gunas itself. So the gunas, if you look at it, the sattvic gunas are more of, this having balance, being very harmonious, positive, peace, creativity is needed, and a lot of intelligence from a point of view of smartness to come up with ideas. So that's what leads to the sattvic gunas. A person, for rajas, to have the rajas gunas, the same person, like we said, they are these kind of leaders, right? They need a lot of, they have to be constantly moving. They have to show a lot of energy, excitement, motivation. All these things are needed for rajas. Of course, we have some other sort of more of qualities related to ego, which is, somebody who's very anxious, somebody who has that ego aspect of it, which we will actually, this shloka, we can spend a lot of time. For today, I just want to give you how we look at the karma part of it and how we look at the guna part of it. And then the tamasic aspect of it is, even though it looks like as it's a negative here, but we have to look at, or some of them seem negative, but some of them are, there is a certain amount of, or there's inertia or inactivity, dullness. Those aspects are kind of the tamasic gunas, so these are the gunas of tamas. Now, so what I did was, maybe you might like this, Amlan, you might like this, which is, I tried to see how we can put this in the form of a graph, So I said, okay, if we were to chart karmas versus gunas, okay, and you have karmas on the, y-axis, x-axis is gunas and y-axis is karmas, and you have sattva, rajas, and tamas, and then you have karma, again sattva, rajas, and tamas here. Potentially, we can come up with 9 kinds of people. Okay. I tried to see if there is some literature on something, but I said, okay, let me put it on my own and see how we can call this. So we have, somebody who has a lot of sattvic quality, but from a karma perspective, if you remember, karma is, we said there are three kinds of people, right? We said we have the thinkers, we have the leaders, and then we have the people who get it done. So we can have construction workers who are extremely sattvic, for example, but who from a work perspective are doing more of a tamasic kind of work, right? And the same kind of construction workers can be more rajasic with a lot of activity. And again, we can see that too. Some, among the construction workers, some people will be doing a lot more work who are capable of doing it. And whereas there might be some people who are a little more lethargic or inertia, so those are the kind of that group of people here. And then same thing among the managers or leaders. You can see how there may be people who are extremely selfless, who really look out for the organization and, who are driven. And maybe next week you can give me some examples. We'll be taking this up for more study, of course. Whereas there might be some leaders or managers who are very, who are very ambitious, very reactive, constantly, lot of energy, wanting to do things. At the same time, there may be some managers or leaders who are tamasic. And again, we can come up with examples. The Enron chief, for example, if you remember the Enron, the CEO who took Enron down, you could say that he was extremely tamasic, but of course he was a CEO there, right? Now, sattvic, again, among thinkers, we could have someone with a high amount of sattva. We can have, again, thinkers who are more rajasic. And we can have thinkers who are more tamasic. So you see how between this classification, we can have literally 9 kinds of people. This is, I just wanted to point this out and show you how. I know the time is already 8 o'clock. We'll stop here. I have one more beautiful chart to show. But any thoughts on this before we close? Or we can close and then we can have a little bit of a discussion. Let's do that. Okay. Sorry, I had some more. So, Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shantihi. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. So I'll stop the live streaming, but we can continue to discuss. Let me stop the